We are here to mourn the loss of something very near and dear to me, to all of us. I'd like a moment of silence for my credibility as a game critic and analyst. You will be missed. It's really tragic how it died, you know. It's because I'm about to heavily criticize a game that is widely critically acclaimed and considered one of the best games on the PlayStation 2. That game is Shadow of the Colossus. Since the new PlayStation 4 remake was just announced at E3, and also because I just completed it as a part of my Completionist Challenge livestream, and I always love a good shameless plug, I thought it was high time to get talking in depth about Shadow of the Colossus. Shadow of the Colossus was never a game I could get behind. I bought the game because of the enormous critical acclaim, and the gameplay looked really cool and interesting, but having played it and finally completed it, I can't just say that it doesn't live up to the hype. It's undeserving of the praise it gets. This game does absolutely nothing to allow the player to have any fun. Down to the game's core design, this game is horribly flawed, and I'm here to point out why in no particular order. Point number 1. Aggro. The first problem I have with this game is your main means of travel, your non-trustworthy steed, Aggro. Aggro controls like my ass after drinking a milkshake, which is extra shit because I'm lactose intolerant. Aggro constantly gets scared of any tiny ledge you might come across, and he is especially afraid of rocks. This constant stopping and having to turn around just slows down the already snail's pace travel to each Colossus. There are times when traveling with Aggro is actually slower than just walking on foot, especially when it comes to some land bridges. Also, calling Aggro to your location is super inconsistent as well. There are so many times where I leave the Shrine of Worship and I call Aggro once I'm outside, and he just doesn't come. But if I go off of this cliff and go to the bottom, he can get to me almost no problem. Aggro's AI is inconsistent and frustrating to deal with, but the frustration only begins. Point number 2. The open world. The open world is just awful. It is completely and utterly boring and unnecessarily big. Trust me, I get it. The point of the big empty overworld is to bore the player so that the Colossus battles seem that much more epic. I'm sorry, but that is the complete wrong way to go about this. When I arrive at a Colossus, I should be like, ah, sweet, a Colossus, not fucking finally a Colossus. The main reason for this is the overworld just isn't that interesting. If you want to do a huge empty overworld with nothing but optional collectibles and a way to get to each level, that's fine. Games like Brutal Legend and Ocarina of Time did that right. And if you're going to do that, you have to make the environment interesting to look at and fun to traverse. This is poo-poo to look at. Nothing but browns and beiges and faded greens, and all of it is super unsaturated. Give me bright, interesting colors. Give me contrast. Hell, give me a day-to-night transition. Just something to make this overworld just a wee bit interesting. I understand that they're trying to create the feel of a barren wasteland, but that doesn't mean it's okay to make it uninteresting. If you want to see this done right, look at a game like Journey, probably one of the most visually interesting games to date. Also, traversing through the overworld takes way too long. This is mostly because even at top speed, Aggro feels slow. I find myself mashing the X button in vain that I'll get a decent sense of speed while on Aggro. In Ocarina of Time, though I realize Hyrule Field isn't as large as the wasteland of Shadow of the Colossus, traversing it after you get Epona feels like you are moving monumentally faster than just normal walking. Traveling with Aggro, sometimes I wonder. It really feels like they just didn't put a lot of effort into making this world an interesting place to explore or even traverse. Point number 3. Collectibles. In this game, there are white-tailed lizards and fruit trees scattered across the map. Eating white-tailed lizards offers you more stamina, and eating fruit off of trees increases the size of your health bar. You see what I did there? I told you the existence of these two collectibles and properly explained why it is beneficial for the player to find and collect these items. You know what doesn't do that? The game. At all. Anywhere within it. There is no hint at all that these collectibles even exist. It doesn't even mention them in the damn manual. Why the developer would assume a player going through the game for the first time would randomly think that a white-tailed lizard would be any different than any of the other useless wildlife is beyond me. The only hint you get within the game that these objects are of some sort of importance is after you beat the game for the first time and do most of the time trials. You'll get 2 items after beating a certain number of time trials that locate these items. The Lizard Detection Stone and the Fruit Tree Map. Even though those 2 items give hints that those collectibles are somewhat important, the game still doesn't properly explain what these items do. It's like when you're playing an old NES game and there's that one item that you never ever know what the point of it is. The game doesn't even take the time to explain objects within its own world that arguably makes the game even more enjoyable to play.
Point number 4. Navigation.
Navigating to each Colossus in this game is needlessly difficult and boring. Your only guide to where to go to fight each Colossus is a light beam that is shined from Wander's sword. Shine? Shown? I don't know. I've been Googling this for 20 minutes and I still can't decide which to use. Grammar Nazis, get in those comments. Anyway, your only means of navigation is by a guiding light that comes from your sword. But this light isn't always there. If you're in a dark patch of land, which is more plentiful than you may think, you are left clueless. The game designers had the brilliant idea that your only means of navigation throughout this entire game should only work in sunlight. Are you kidding me? That's like if you were playing Dead Rising and the guide arrow above your head would just disappear if you were in certain parts of the mall. That would be stupid, because then you wouldn't know where to go to complete your objectives. Just like in this game. My favorite part, I love it every time this happens. When I get to a dark patch of land that just so happens to have 2 or 3 different pathways I can go, and since I have no idea where to go because my sword is out of solar power, I go down a random pathway, and at this point, it's guesswork. Then I get out of the corridor into some sweet sunny D delicious sunlight, only to raise up my sword and have it point back the way I came. If this sword is so mystical and magical that it can point out the Colossus that need to be defeated, why can't it work all the time, regardless of sunlight or darkness? Make it a sword that generates light. Maybe something along the lines of, oh, I don't know, a Sword of the Sun. Wait, there is something like that, and it is also called the Sword of the Sun. How do you get it? By beating the game twice, once on normal and another on hard mode, then defeating 4 hard time trials. What the fuck? Why can't it just be like this all the time? Fuck the crappy navigation in this game. Next topic.
Point number 5. The story.
There is none. Next topic.
Point number...
Okay, on a serious note, there is a story to this game, but barely any at all. The story of this game is that Wander brings this dead girl to the Shrine of Worship, learning that a god that watches over that shrine would be able to bring this dead girl back to life. The god decides to help Wander, but only on one condition. Wander must defeat these 16 Colossi to be able to give the god the power to bring her back. First of all, with this intro, I already have so many questions. First of all, where did Wander and this girl come from? Where are they from? How did Wander hear about the Forbidden Land? We're kind of told that it's part of a legend of their village, which you kind of see glimpses of when Lord Iman later in the game is riding away from the Shrine of Worship. But your characters are never given any backstory, so everything is just really confusing. Also, the story implies that the girl was sacrificed, but why? The game says that it's because she had a cursed fate, but what does that even mean? There are so many theories around this, most of which tie this game to Eco, but the game never gives you anything more than that vague reasoning. Also, how did she die? Looking at her, she's not stabbed, shot, sliced, decapitated, drained of blood, or anything of the sort. She could be poisoned, but I'm just speculating at this point. If they didn't want anybody to question why she was sacrificed, they could have come up with a much easier solution along the lines of that she died of a disease that kills people in their sleep. The third question I have with this intro is, who is this girl to us? Wander's relationship to this girl is never, ever explained. Is she our sister, our girlfriend, our childhood friend, someone we fell in love with, some random girl Wander decided to throw his life away to save? Give me something! I understand they wanted to keep the story vague, but not telling me what this girl is to Wander leaves me wondering why I should even care. The game's main motivation is to make me want to save this girl, but there's nothing in this game that motivates me into doing so. Why should I care about some random girl that seemingly has no relationship with the protagonist? A couple of flashbacks of the two would help if they even had a history. Wander is such a blank slate that he makes Link look like he's booming with personality, but I'll get to my more major complaints about him later. The next cutscene we see a bunch of men on horseback riding towards the Shrine of Worship. Okay, cool. Now, the ending. Okay. Here we go. The men arrive at the Shrine of Worship right after Wander defeats the final Colossus. Wander gets teleported back to the shrine. Lord Emon says some things to the dead girl that we can't understand because they failed to put any subtitles, and then they notice Wander. Wander is now a zombie. Lord Emon scolds Wander on making the events of this game happen. One of the soldiers kill Wander and he spews blood like a Colossus. Wander shrugs it off like a flesh wound, but then decides to finally die, as well as turn black. Then, Wander transforms into a Colossus, which apparently is the physical embodiment of Dorman, the god we've been helping this entire time. Dorman tries to crush everybody with worse controls than before, as Emon and his men take a leisurely stroll to the pool. Emon throws a sword into the pool, which for some reason sucks Dorman and Wander into it. Emon and his men destroy the bridge leading to the Shrine of Worship using magic, I guess. The girl actually wakes up without Dorman having to do anything to her. I guess she was just napping. Aggro returns after we saw her fall hundreds of feet down a cliff, and somehow the only injury she sustained was a broken leg. Please, for the love of God, just put her down. The girl likes the pretty horse. Credits roll. But wait, there's more. We see Emon and his men finish crossing the bridge because I cared so much to know that they made it home safe. We get to watch the girl and Aggro take a leisurely stroll to the pool. A horned baby appears. Aggro is sick of this shit and tries to leave. The girl is now a mom. Aggro and the new mom climb to the top of the shrine to a Garden of Eden looking place. Random deer is for some reason important. Deer is still important. Why is this deer so important? Eagle flies away along with the camera because I think we're all done. And finally, it ends. Was that explanation long, boring, and confusing? Imagine sitting through it for 26 minutes.
Point number 6. Padding and virtual difficulty.
For those who don't know what I mean by padding and virtual difficulty, let me take a second to explain. Padding is something in a game that doesn't really add anything new to the game and only serves as a means for making the game feel longer. Some good examples include the extra missions in Sonic Heroes and the need to grind in most JRPGs, especially the early Final Fantasies. When I say virtual difficulty, I mean a task that feels hard, but is either not very hard to execute or, on the other side of the spectrum, impossible to prevent. If there's one thing this game does amazingly is making itself feel hard, but just using this feeling to pad out already drawn out fights. There is nothing that pads out fights more than the goddamn shaking and staggering. It is so ridiculous how much you stagger on the Colossi in this game. They walk, you stagger. They shake, you stagger. They literally stand there and do nothing, you stagger. Get some fucking finger strength, Wander. Jesus! During these sequences where Wander sounds like he's jacking it, is it hard to stay on the Colossus? No, because all you're doing is holding R1. Holding down a button isn't fun, it isn't hard, so all of this is doing is wasting my fucking time. Hit the Colossus, wait 2 minutes for him to stop shaking. Attack, wait, attack, wait. Is this fun? Are we having a great time? My favorite thing is to really pad out the battle. There are times where the Colossus shakes until you have no choice but to fall off. That's fair. Why does that need to be a thing? Why can't I fall off because I fucked up? Why does it force a hindrance on me? Also, not to bring up the overworld again, but the Forbidden Land is also a major source of padding in this game. Is it hard to get to the Colossi? No. What am I doing to get there? Repeatedly tapping A until I get there. With nothing to avoid, worry about, or do overall. It does nothing but waste time. And that's basically just the essence of this entire game. It wastes time.
Point number 7. Wander!
I hate Wander as a protagonist. When I play as a character, I want to feel empowered. I'm not saying every character I play as should be a big, burly, muscly man. I'm just saying I need my character to feel at least up to the task. When I play as Link in all of the Zelda games, okay, most of the Zelda games, I feel like Link is confident, strong, and brave. When I play as Mario, I feel like I'm having just as great a time with the game as Mario looks like he's having. When I play as Wander, I feel like I can't do anything. I mean, seriously, just look at the way he walks! He looks like he's a toddler learning how to walk for the first time. And look at that sword! Look at it! Look at the way he just lets that sword bob up and down like a schmuck. What kind of swordsmanship is this? Hold the sword like a man. It just shows how incapable Wander looks. It also doesn't help that when he's on a Colossus, he stumbles, if the Colossus even thinks of sneezing. I know I'm repeating myself with this point, but it just goes to show how weak I feel playing as Wander. Characters need to convey a sense of avatar strength through how they act in-game as well as just their animations. If they wanted to make him nervous or seem weak, that's fine, but don't keep it throughout the entire game or else you feel like your character isn't growing, which is why Wander feels so bland and uninteresting.
Point number 8. Pretentiousness.
When I say I hate the pretentiousness of this game, I'm not talking about how pretentious the art of the game feels. In fact, I think I've talked enough about the art of this game and the themes it was trying to accomplish. When I say that I hate the pretentiousness of this game, I mean that I hate how this game just assumes that the player will play through this game multiple times. In fact, this game expects that the player will have so much fun beating the same 16 bosses over and over again that it will expect the player to do it a minimum of 6 times. What do I mean by that? Well, first of all, you complete the game once just by playing the normal campaign. Then, the game gives you hard mode, expecting you to play the same game again with added difficulty. Mind you, the only difference is that 6 of the 16 Colossi have an extra weak point, and Wander takes more damage now. They couldn't even put in the effort of giving the Colossi special moves, or even just putting extra sigils on all the Colossi. Hell, not even half of them have extra weak points. So you play through the hard mode, but now you have the option of doing the time attack going back into normal mode. Now you get to fight the same 16 Colossi a third time, but this time there's a time limit. You have the option though, you may be saying. Yeah, you have the option, but if you don't do it, then you don't get these cool items that you get every time you complete 2 time trials. 2 of which help you locate lizards and fruit trees, and others increasing how much damage you deal to a Colossus. Okay, so you play through it a third time. Well, now you gotta see what these new items can do. So, following that logic, they expect you to play through the normal mode again with your newfound items, making that your 4th playthrough. Well, now what can you do? Oh yeah, there's a hard time attack too. The best part is, completing the hard time attack gives you a slew of all new items that are even stronger than the ones you obtained in the normal mode. Looks like you just had yourself a 5th playthrough. Of course you get your lizard detection stone and your fruit tree map, but you know what else you get? A parachute and a sword that navigates you whether you are in sunlight or not. I want to take this time to go on a little mini rant right now. These items are honestly really fucking cool. My only complaint is that the only way to get them is to complete these time trials that you only unlock after beating the game. I feel like that does an injustice to the items themselves. When you unlock these items, you don't feel like Wander is gaining an upgrade. You feel like you unlocked a cheat code. Also, why can't I bring these items I unlocked into other game files or even the time attacks? That's where I need them to be the most. It's not like it would break the game any. You only get the sword that takes the Colossi down in one hit when you beat all the bosses in the hard time attack. Anyway, so you just completed your 5th playthrough of fighting the same 16 bosses. Well, now the curious gamer inside you must try out these newfound items that are different from the ones you unlocked in the normal time attack. So again, the game assumes you're gonna play for a 6th time. That's fighting the same 16 Colossi 6 times each, totaling your battle count to 96 battles with diminishing variety. This is ridiculous. I understand giving your game replay value, but when you make a game that is so bare bones like this one, you can't expect a player to want to play through it 6 times. Hell, most games that have replay value expect you to play through maybe like 2 or 3 times, but not a number as high as 6. The only games that should expect you to play through it more than 3 times are rogue games that use RNG to determine the circumstances of your adventure, like Rogue Legacy. For my Completionist Challenge stream, I had to do 4 playthroughs of this game. 1 normal, 1 hard mode, 1 time attack, and 1 hard time attack. And let me tell you, every time I had to fight a Colossus again, it got less and less fun to do it. And I already wasn't having fun. It makes me angry that a game this bare bones thinks it's deserving of 6 complete playthroughs. If that isn't pretentious, I don't know what is.
Point number 9. Remakes.
Okay, so I know this doesn't really have anything to do with the game itself, but I just wanted to go on a rant about this really quick. I understand that Shadow of the Colossus was a very critically acclaimed game and everything, so I know why they did an HD version of Shadow of the Colossus for the PlayStation 3. It had a purpose. The original game does not look good on HD televisions, so they wanted to up the graphics to make the game look even better than it did, and to add a little bit more incentive for people to buy the game, they also gave out an HD remaster of Eco as well. This is a remake with purpose. What isn't a remake with purpose is Shadow of the Colossus for the PlayStation 4. Why is this being made? There is no reason for it to be made. It seems like all they're doing is just upping the graphics again, and you know, this just spells out everything wrong with the game right here. All the developers care about are the graphics of this one game, because this game made money. They are not interested in taking the gameplay of Shadow of the Colossus, an open-world adventure game where you fight 16 enormous bosses, and making this concept grow in a different game. All they care about is making money off of a recognizable title, with the only payoff for buying it again being that it's going to be in glorious 4K. I can't wait to see all those browns in 4K. My first reaction to seeing this trailer was just, why? Not even just because I don't like this game, but because there's no reason for it to be remastered again.
Final thoughts.
Bottom line, Shadow of the Colossus is a broken game that does literally nothing to try and give the player any source of power or give them any incentive to have fun. The only thing Shadow of the Colossus has going for it is good for PlayStation 2 graphics and an amazing orchestral soundtrack. But you know what else had a rocking soundtrack and good graphics for the time? Sonic 06. I think I'll just leave it at that. I'm not buying the PS3 remaster, I do not plan on even looking at the PS4 remaster, and I am never playing Shadow of the Colossus ever again. I know a lot of people will disagree with me on the points I've made in this video, and that's fine. Put your arguments down in the comments below, I'd love to read them. I really don't want controller input to turn into a review type show. That's what the GCN show is for, but I just needed to vent out my frustrations after completing Shadow of the Colossus on my Completionist Challenge streams, as well as hearing the announcement of the PlayStation 4 remaster. I hope you guys enjoyed my ranting. Please argue with me in the comments below, and please subscribe to this channel to see Let's Plays posted twice a day, as well as other shows and skits. And if you want to watch me rage at video games for 2 hours at a time, please follow Game Controller Network on Twitch, where I'm taking on the Completionist Challenge.
Extra portion. Completionist Challenge.
Okay, so I want to take a second to actually advertise my Completionist Challenge streams right now, since I haven't actually told any of you guys about this at all. On the 100th episode of The Completionist, the Sonic 06 episode, Gerard showed off a poster where he claimed you could take on the Completionist Challenge for yourself.
The third item, which I'm very proud to bring you guys, is the Completionist 100 Video Games poster. This huge 18 by 24 poster will allow you to follow my steps as the completionist. Put this poster on your wall and mark off games you've completed like I have, and even write in your own completionist rating underneath it.
And that's exactly what I tend to do. I've been streaming the Completionist Challenge for almost a year now, and I still haven't made that much of progress. So far I've completed Mega Man X, Secret of Mana, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, Shadow of the Colossus, Banjo-Kazooie, and Sonic 3 and Knuckles. And I'm currently on my way to completing Super Meat Boy. If you want to watch the Completionist Challenge streams, follow us on Twitch, www.twitch.tv/gamecontrollernetwork, where I stream usually every Monday and Thursday. And also, subscribe to my personal channel, A Man Named Bottles, to see these streams posted in full. Thank you for listening to my constant shilling, and if you have a suggestion for a controller input episode, put it in the comments below. Bye!